cloud and see if it will. Oh, okay, seems to want to do that. Okay, so for everyone who is here today, welcome for the baking of the bread for Day of the Dead. And just before we go on with that, I thought that next week we would do Stollen. And the reason is because Stollen needs to sit around for like a good 6 to 8 weeks before you can cut into it. So if we do Stollen next week, you will all be able to start eating it by the middle of Advent. So I will put the recipe, in fact, it's there, but I'll make it more accessible so that I'll do it early so that you know what to buy. You have to invest in billions of raisins. And mixed peel, and you need a bottle of rum, very high alcohol rum or brandy, but it will all be there, and I'll do that today or tomorrow. So I thought next week we would do Stollen. And trust me, the most difficult part of doing Stollen is squishing in the raisins, but it's doable. Done it many times. We could do that bit together. So let me once again say welcome to everybody. I hope that you're all fine. And what you should have, and we've got some interesting technical moments here. This is the first time that I've done this from here. No, that's the wrong thing. Let's see. What you should have is your dough. Okay, so here's my dough in the bowl. It's nice and huge. It's at least doubled in size, if not more. You can see the little flecks of the ground aniseed because I just did that by hand rather than buy it in a powder. So you can see the little flecks. Smells great. You should also have your egg glaze stroke glue. That's all beaten up and ready to go because we're going to need that pretty much, you know, when we finish shaping, we have to stick the little bones and the skull on. So if you haven't got your egg wash ready, please get your egg wash ready. It's easy. 1 egg, a little splash of water, tiny bit of sugar and salt. That's your glaze. You should have your brush for doing your glaze. Okay. You can eyeball it or you can use a scale. Totally fine. You are going to have ready your baking tray that's lined with parchment. Okay, that should be ready. And some flour. Okay, because we're dealing with a very, very high butter, very soft dough. You need flour for your hands. Okay, don't need flour down. So those are the things that you need. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Question. Okay, so
yes,
I fear, I'm not a bread expert, but I fear my dough is more like a batter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That looks very battery. That's very odd. Does anyone else's dough look battery? Because this is what mine looks like a dough.
Ours is more like the batter.
Like, mine just looks like normal dough. It certainly doesn't look battery.
Mine's very dough, like battery.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if there's anything I could do
odd.
right now to rescue it.
Must have big eggs.
Well, do you have a kneading machine?
Yep.
Like, do you have a KitchenAid?
Yep.
Because it looks to me like, I've never seen it turn out that way, but it looks to me that maybe the butter melted before it was incorporated. But just check the recipe. Did you use 500 grams of flour, 5 eggs, and 200 grams of butter? Basically, there's a little bit of orange juice and a little bit of water.
Yep.
Okay, so what you might want to do is stick it in the KitchenAid, turn the KitchenAid on and leave it there for 10 minutes and see what happens.
And should I should I add some flour to it?
I wouldn't have thought so. Not if you use the exactly correct proportions.
Like the butter is all incorporated. Like I don't see an oily layer at all. Like it's, and when we put it in, we did room temperature. And I mixed it in using the KitchenAid, the hook.
Yeah. For a
10
good 10 minutes, did you knead for 10 minutes and then add the butter and then knead for a further 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, I've never seen that happen. On the lowest speed?
Lowest.
Was it a dough before you added the butter? Because it's quite a dry dough. It should have been a pretty dry dough.
Yeah, no, it was a moist, and I was wondering if my eggs were too large. If that.
I mean, I wouldn't have thought so unless they're kind of some crazy jumbo Canadian egg, but
Mine was really wet.
mine is a dough. Like mine is a normal, I mean, a soft, like a brioche. Yeah, that's fine. Yours is fine. It's not like if you look at Mary Ellen's is positively liquid.
Yeah, batter.
Close up.
Does anyone else have that issue? Is anyone else's dough like batter? Because I mean, this is not batter, and Sarah, yours is not batter. There's no one else talking, so I'm going to assume that.
I didn't make a dough because I didn't have time, so I'm just watching.
Okay.
Me too.
Jen, I know you're here. Jen, how's your dough? Oh, there's Michelle. Hello. Michelle, how's
Hello.
yours? Normal?
I haven't made one, sorry.
Okay. Jen,
I'm
how about you?
I'll put it in the KitchenAid and I'll just use the hook, you think, and see if I can get it to do something here.
Yeah, see if you can get it. And you'll have to put yourself on mute, sadly, because, we'll hear it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
anyone else, does anyone else have that dough issue?
No,
Anyone?
mine's dough. but
Jen,
it's-
is your dough perfectly doughy?
yeah, it's like brioche, like sticky brioche dough.
Exactly. Okay, so yeah, it should be like sticky brioche dough. Okay, so Mary Ellen, I can't explain it.
Okay, we'll give it a
And I'm
try.
sorry. Okay, give it a try. Stick it in the KitchenAid, turn it on, put yourselves on mute, and then at least you can watch. And this is, we're recording. So for everybody else, yes, this is a soft dough. And when you're working with, so it's not the highest butter dough. So brioche is a higher butter dough. So brioche has about half of the quantity, we're talking always in grams here, of butter to flour. So if you use 500 grams of flour in a brioche, typically you're using 250 grams of butter, right? So this is slightly less. It's 500 grams of flour, eggs, and it's 200 grams of butter. So it's still a very high butter dough. And when you're working with a high butter dough, you need the dough itself. You need it, as I said, for 10 minutes, and then you add the butter, and then you knead it for another 10. If you're working by hand, there's this big don't panic health warning with any high butter dough, especially like a brioche or this, because it literally becomes a puddle. Like Mary Ellen's dough, it becomes a puddle. But if you keep kneading, it springs back into something that has a bit of a chewing gum texture, which is what your dough should have. It should have a bit of a chewing gum texture. The other thing that happens is it goes from pale yellow to dark yellow. And you'll begin to see these streaks in the dough. And that tells you that you're getting to the point of it being ready to go. So I'm hopeful that with Mary Ellen, she can just bejesus out of it and it will spring into its kind of chewing gummy form. But, for those of you who knead it by hand, that, if you're going to do brioche and knead by hand, the top tip is don't panic. It will, like the butter will melt. There'll be a lake on the table. But if you keep on going, it always will spring back. Okay, so there's an interesting, and then also you'll see it begin to change color. You'll see those dark golden streaks begin to form in the dough, and then the whole dough goes a very dark golden color, much darker than when it started. So that's a really typical high butter dough, and this was pretty high. Okay, so what you're going to do now, I'm going to try and tilt this down. Okay, there you can see my bowl. So I'm going to take it out of the bowl and just put it on the counter. Okay. And it's really chewing gummy. I mean, it really is quite, yeah, there's no other word for it. It's not stringy, is not the word, just rubbery almost.
How much
Okay.
flour have you got on your work surface, Jane?
None, no flour down.
Right.
So no flour down. At this point, don't use any flour. I'm going to take my bowl, move it out of the way. It's a great question, though. I think that was Sarah. I think I recognized your voice.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is if you add this up, in your mind, you calculate 500 grams of flour, 200 grams of butter, that's 700. There's a bits and pieces of everything else. If I was going to weigh it, I would guess this weighs about 800 grams. But
Yeah.
I'm going to eyeball. You need to divide your big blob into 4 pieces. Okay, so 2 scrapers is handy for this. Okay, so literally, I'm just going to eyeball it. And don't worry if you're wrestling with it. You see that I'm wrestling with it. So it's like you're going to scoop these pieces and just put them down again somewhere that doesn't have any flour for now. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, saves me having to clean the scale, to be honest with you. 3, 4. Okay. Okay, so I've got my 4 pieces of dough. Just show you those. And they kind of roughly look about the same size. Okay, but you can measure if you want to. Don't let me stop you measuring. For those of you who love to measure, and obviously if you're selling these, you would want to measure so that they all are the same size. Okay, so I'm going to actually bring you down a level. Oops, not that far. Wait. There. Okay. So can you see that? All the pieces of dough. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, here you can use the scale, makes it a little bit easier, and turn on the scale, and I'm going to take a blob off of each of the dough balls. And my blob is going to be about 50 grams. Okay, so here I've taken a blob off the first dough ball, and there it is on my scale, just so that you can see. Okay, and so what you want to achieve is 4 big blobs and 4 little blobs. Okay, and just put the little blobs aside for now. Okay, that's about right. Another little blob. And here, a little bit more. And this, it begins to feel like you're making little tiny bits of bread for dollies. Okay, and another one. That's a bit too much. Okay, so what you've got, I'll show you my table. Okay, and 2 scrapers. Remember, I'm using 2 scrapers here. So I'm going to move my scale down here. So if you look at the work table, okay, there are the 4 small balls and the 4 big balls. So everybody give me a shout when you've all got 4 big balls and small balls. So just let me know when you're ready and we'll go on to the next step, but we won't do that until everybody's ready. And they have indeed even though Day of the Dead is, 2 weeks away, it's a bit like Christmas. The Christmas decorations are out here as well in Mexico. They might be out I bet they are out in England in the supermarkets. So you've got here Day of the Dead paraphernalia in the supermarkets. You've got Halloween paraphernalia in the supermarkets and Christmas. You've got everything going on. And no doubt soon they'll start, I don't know, catering to the Americans to do American Thanksgiving. So let me just hear from you. Give me a shout when you've got your 4 big balls and your 4 small balls.
Yeah, I'm good to go. Although they're blobs rather than the balls.
Yeah, they're blobs at this point on mine. For me
That's
too.
fine.
How about anybody else? Anybody else ready?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So now dealing with this soft dough, you've got to have some flour to hand. Okay, there's my little bucket of flour. And you want to have your, baking tray lined with nonstick paper to hand. Okay, so we've done this before. We have done this before. Now what you're going to do is you're going to flour your hands. Okay, both of your hands. And you're going to take one of these balls. See that you can see me. Yeah, that's about right. And you are going to do your best to do a bit of a stretch and fold. Okay, literally keep your flour, keep flour on your hands. You don't want any flour into the dough if you can avoid it. Okay, stretching and folding, it is workable. Okay, the bottom one up. Try to get it stacked into literally just, and all you're doing now, the dough itself. Okay. Flour your hands, both of them really, really well. And then you're literally gonna, can you see that I'm just twisting it? And because the surface is sticky, it wraps itself around itself. So flour on your hands so that you don't stick. And you're gonna do really light movements. There's no pushing here at all. There's just enough movement to twist the dough ball around itself, and the table acts as a screw because it's completely sticking to the table. That's why you can't have any flour on the table, okay? And there's no flour going in. Okay, so do you see how that happened? And then I'm gonna lift it off. I'm gonna show you the bottom.
Is coffee.
Can you see? I don't know if you can see it, but it's sort of swirled around itself. And then I'm gonna put it sticky side down on my baking tray. So let me show you again. I'm gonna pick up a piece of dough here. It's just a blob. I'm gonna flour my hands. And I'm going, so that I don't stick. Okay, and with my scraper, I do a stretch and fold. Okay, take the other scraper if it's sticking, north, south, east, west. Okay, just to stack it. You just want to stack up this dough so that it's more workable. Okay, under and stack it over. Okay, and then remember, no flour down. Flip it over, flour your hands, and then just, if you're sticking at all, keep the flour, just turn it. And it's sticking to the table. Like every time I turn it, it bounces back. It's literally sticking to the table because the table has no flour on it. Okay, do you see the little ball? Expressions of delight. Yay, wow, how amazing. Let's hear them.
Hey.
Excellent. And then pick
Yay.
it up. Yay, and space them out because they're gonna rise, okay? So let's do another one. Remember, nothing is on, there's no, as little flour as possible. If you've got a floury surface, just scrape it out of the way, okay? So we're picking up a blob and putting it down. I happen to be right-handed, so my scraper's in my right hand and I get flour on my left. I'm gonna go under and I'm gonna stretch and fold. It's gonna stick to the scraper. It's okay, just kind of twist your scraper or use the other one to get it off. Okay, and then the bottom one. Okay, so I've got my 4 stretch and folds. I'm gonna pick it up and turn it over. Now flour my hands and just turn it. And when you turn it, the dough, it's gotta be on, if it's sliding, pick it up with your scraper and move it to somewhere that doesn't have any flour. It can't slide. It's really gotta stick or it won't wrap itself up. Okay, so blob, ball, blob, ball. Okay, 3. And then I'll do it one last time. Get the flour out of the way. I want to get this, and sometimes you have to get rid of the kind of goo on your scraper. So use one scraper to scrape the other one and vice versa. Okay. So here we go, stretch and fold, stretch and fold, stretch and fold. Just stack it up. Okay, turn it over. Flour.
Do you fold it over using your scrapers or your hands?
I do the stretch and fold with a scraper because you stick less. That's
yeah,
all.
but then when you flip it over,
You stick, and so you need your other scraper to scrape it off. So when you hold on. When you stretch and fold,
yeah,
stretch it like this and fold it,
yeah.
and you might need a scraper. And then when you flip it over, use your scraper and just flip it over.
Well, no, do you flip the ball over before you start swirling?
Yes, you do. You flip the ball over.
And you use your scrapers for that?
Yeah. Okay. So you stretch and fold.
Yeah.
Stretch and fold, stretch and fold, stretch and fold, and then get your scraper underneath it and just literally flip it over.
Okay.
And that's when you flour your hands and you just.
When I flip it over, it goes all flat again.
Well, that's okay because it will tighten up into a ball.
Okay.
It should. Okay, so I'll just show you mine. Just here they are, 4 balls. So from blobs, they've gone into balls. That's what they should look like.
Done this before.
I have done this many times. And when you're doing the stretch and fold, you're really looking to stack the dough. So it goes from a puddle into more of a high blob than a low blob. Probably not very helpful description, but I'm hoping that you saw it. Okay. So now I'm just going to clean my table up. I'm not far away.
Jane, Mary here again. So it's still looking like a batter. Any suggestions?
I don't. And you know what, Mary Ellen, what we may need to do is talk about this afterwards because I don't know what went wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. I think it will make a nice pancake.
The other thing it will absolutely do, if you pour it into a butter a bread tin very, very well and pour it into a bread tin. And now that you've kneaded it, pour it into a bread tin and it will rise because it'll be contained by the bread tin. Let it rise, you're looking for it to double in size. It may even triple in size. Leave it for 2 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
And then throw it in the oven.
Yeah, I think it will work.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it will definitely work. Remember, everything bakes.
Well, and the batter does taste good, so I don't want to waste it.
No, but it will absolutely rise. Just stick it into a bread tin so it's contained, or even into like muffin cups.
Yes. Okay.
And
So
only if you put it into muffin cups, make sure they are maximum 1/3 full because it's going to rise.
oh, right. Okay. Good. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so how's everybody doing with making their blobs into balls? How are we doing there?
Yeah, we've done.
All right.
I got mine.
Excellent. Oh, those look wonderful, Jen. How you doing?
Very sticky. And when I
Yeah,
put
that's okay. That's
when I
okay.
put them down, I have to scrape them, but
That's okay. So now is the kind of really fun part of these small ones. Small ones. Again, you're just going to have to up with it being super sticky. And you need to divide every single tiny blob into 5 little tiny pieces. Okay, so you're going to have 20 little tiny pieces. So let's just do that. And we may as well do all 20 right now. It doesn't really matter as long as you have 20 wee pieces. Okay. This is by far, well, no, it's not true, but it's one of the more labor intensive. The original recipe for this, by the way, is in the book that was originally entitled All You Need Is Bread and is now called Making Bread at Home. So that's where this recipe first appeared. And I was lucky enough to learn this or do this recipe for the first time with a marvelous chef here in Mexico City on one of my first visits a very long time ago. So has everybody got 20 little blobs?
Yeah.
Fine.
Excellent. And now what you want to do, again, it's just sort of hysterical because they're so small. 4 of them, you just want to roll. I mean, again, get flour on your hand like this. See, the palm of my hand is floury. And I'm going to move this to where you can see it. Again, you don't want any flour down. And just, you're going to do what we did when we were doing the other ones, which is I've now got too much flour all over the place, but let me do another one for you. You're going to make 5 little balls, tiny, tiny, tiny little balls. It's very easy if you have a sticky surface and a floury hand. Do you remember that? Do you remember this action with the making the round? Like that. Okay, I'm going to show you again. Pick up a little blob, flour your palm, and literally remember that I know it's teeny weeny, but it's just like rolling a dough ball. Okay, it's like rolling a bun. It's exactly the same action. The dough touches the top of your palm, and there's no downward pressure. There's just this round movement to get a dough ball. So you want to have 4 little dough balls. Okay. I'm going to do my other one here. Okay. So you've got 4 little dough balls, and those are skulls. Okay. If you use your imagination, they're skulls. Now, with the other ones, again, you want some flour down. Roll them. It's a bit of a pest. Roll them out as best you can. And this is not precision science here. Okay, roll them out as best you can into, let me show you, a little sausage. And then what you want to do is you want to put your fingers, like 2 fingers. So here, hang on, let me see if I can show you this better. Here's the sausage. You want to put your fingers like this. So can you see? Can you see that?
Yes.
Let me try it. Let me try that. Wait. There. Okay. That's better. Like this. So you have 2 fingers and you are rolling back and forth so that you've got like, this looks like a blob and an indentation. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yep.
So that's what it looks like because it's supposed to look a bit like a bone. Okay. So there it is. So you're going to make all of the other ones. You have to do that. Okay. So that's what we're going to do next. All of the other ones. We're going to do those little bones. And as you make them, just kind of shuffle them out of the way. And as I say, it's a bit of a bear, labor intensive. It's easy to start. This one, you do need quite like, you need a bit of flour. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 4 of them and then show you how we stick those on. So remember, it's easiest if you make the kind of sausage first and then you just make the bone afterwards. Okay. So if you have too much flour down, it becomes, and it's very easy, as I've just done, to have too much flour on the table, and then it doesn't stick at all, which you need it to do. Okay. So I've got 4 kind of bones and I have got 4 balls. So let me show you what to do so that we can all just work. So what you want to do once you've got, ideally you want to roll them all out. Well, you know what, let's do that. And then then all the dough moves at the same pace. So I wish I had music for you to listen to, but I don't, but you can listen to music in your own kitchen. And we can just carry on shaping these little guys. And at some point you kind of hit a sweet spot, which lasts for about 2 bones. And then you're like, it's all gone horribly wrong again. There's like just the right amount of flour.
Until it reduces by half. Can you just let me mute myself?
And sorry, I'm incapable of parallel processing. Apparently we're supposed to be good at it, but I'm not. So I would love to be regaling you with anything informative, but I can't do that and roll bones.
Jane, I'm having real issues rolling the bones.
Oh, I know, it's a complete pain in the arse.
Okay, all right then, it's not just me.
Oh God, no. As I say, at some point every once in a while you hit a sweet spot where there's exactly the right amount of flour everywhere. But more often than not, either it's too floury or it's too sticky. So yeah, don't worry about it. If you're having, if this is proving difficult, it's a complete pest. This is definitely going to be the fussiest dough. See, every once in a while, it's like totally great. But then.
Yeah, my last one was fine. This one's terrible.
Exactly. As I say, you hit a sweet spot and you go, oh, cool, that was easy. And then it all goes horribly wrong. Come on. Okay.
Oh.
Ah! I just heard an expression of dismay.
Yeah, my dough stuck to my palm.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, for those of you who can kind of watch and roll, I'm just going to show you, let's see. Of course, they're all exactly where I don't want them to be, my little bony guys. So let me get rid of them. Ah. Moving them was a really bad idea. I should be able to, yeah, you can see. Which one can you see best? I don't really know, maybe that one. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my egg wash and my brush, and I'm going to brush the top and brush gently, right? Because the dough is super soft. Okay, and this is basically glue. Okay, it's glaze too, but it's glaze and glue. So, you know, obviously glaze carefully so it's all nice and glazy. And then what you do is you take a head. Oh God, I've got low power mode.
Hey, we lost you.
Okay, did you have me back?
Yes.
Okay, great. I have low power, so I'm gonna have to work fast. Okay? Can you see that? A little head?
Yes.
And then what you do is you take, it depends, you might want to do the head last, but you basically take 4 of the bones and you drape them any which way down the side. Okay, so you can do it like that. Or what you can do, it doesn't really matter. You can do the head last, and you obviously then want to glaze all of them. But before I run out of power, which I'm bound to do, I can go and find a plug, but that is not going to be very helpful. Okay, so here's another one. And this time I'll put the bones on first. Okay, so there's a bone. It goes right down the side. Okay, 4 bones. And then I'm going to stick on the head. Stick on the head. So just in case I lose all of you, you then glaze the bones and glaze everything. And you can, I mean, it's very soft. I can kind of feel it rising as I'm doing this. I'm going to glaze these guys. Now, if I lose you, I probably will lose you. But if I do lose you, it's been lovely. And I'm just going to carry on doing this until I lose you. And you let these rise. Again, it's probably an hour, might be a little more if the kitchen's cold. And you then bake them according to the instruction. And literally when they come out of the oven, while they're still warm, you will, you notice how I can't talk and work at the same time? While they're still warm, you brush them with melted butter and then sprinkle sugar all over them. This is not a low-cal moment, but that's okay. It's only once a year. Okay, so there's another one. And, you know, sometimes you see 4 bones and sometimes you see 6 bones and sometimes there isn't a head, but you kind of get the idea. And by the way, they'll probably fall over in the oven. Like they don't necessarily rise with the head on top. Sometimes they rise a little bit lopsided. And that, by the way, is how they're, you know, bought here. They're not perfect because, you know, the dough is soft, they're handmade, gravity, all of that. Okay, I've got my head. Woo. Got my head going on. And then I've got my 4 last bones. And then glaze them. Okay. So these are going to sit here for maybe an hour. It's quite warm here today. It's a lot of sun, which is always very nice. And once they have risen, they go into a 200 oven, or maybe it says 220, whatever it says. Could say 220. I'm pretty sure it's 200 though. And just mind them, because there's sugar in the dough, and there's sugar in the glaze, they will go brown pretty quickly. So if you know you have a hot oven, keep an eye on them. And don't necessarily bake them at the top of the oven, okay? Don't bake them at the bottom of the oven because then they might burn on the bottom, but let's say the middle. More like baking a cake than baking bread because they've got a lot going on to help them go nice and brown, right? Whereas if you don't have any sugar in your dough, there's not much to caramelize, but these guys have a ton of sugar anywhere. Okay, so there are my 4 pan de muertos. Can you all see them?
Yep.
And how's everybody else's looking? We're not going to see the finished product today. Let's see your dough balls, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna swipe you so I can see you. Hey, those look good. Those look great. Sarah, those are beautiful. And whose are those? Oh, those look wonderful. Whose ever those are. I can't see the name, but they look gorgeous.
Clint. Clint.
Excellent. Okay, well, look, everybody. Before I run out of battery, let me do this. No, let me not do this. Let me do this. I'm going to stack you up again. So, hello?
Hello?
So, everybody fine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody happy?
Yeah.
How's COVID? I hear it's depressing and bad.
Yeah.
Depressing.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm sorry for that. Here we don't ever, so here in Mexico, yeah, it's a mystery. We don't know how, we think it's just kind of stable. We don't think we're having any kind of second wave. But nothing's changed here. Schools aren't back, universities aren't back. Office buildings will be, mostly closed until at least next year, if not next March. At least that's the sort of plan. So life hasn't really, nobody could lock down or close here. There are way too many people who need to leave their house in order to work and earn a living. And the choice they faced was, die of starvation or die of COVID. So they chose to take their risk on COVID. Tragically, it was, a death ending for many people. But, we really have no idea here in Mexico, and it makes it a little bit better in a funny way because none of us really know what's going on. So everybody's very cautious here. Everybody wears masks everywhere. You have to take your temperature. Everybody has little thermometer guns wherever you go in, even the supermarket. They take your temperature. You have hand sanitizer. You have to go with a mask. Everyone walks on the street with a mask. People are very, very cautious here, which is surprising and pleasing. We're not necessarily known for our obedience to authority here in Mexico, but yes, so everybody is doing their best. How is it over there? Are people getting fed up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, simple answer. Well, we will try and do these bake-alongs. I will try and carry on doing them every Sunday, same time, same channel. And I hope that they are continuing to bring you pleasure and that you're learning something. So next week we will do Stalin. Jen and I have done that before. I know we did that together. So Stalin's super fun. I'll get the recipe out to you as soon as I can so you can buy what you need. And when your pan de muertos come out of the oven, if you can remember to take a photograph and send it to me, I would really appreciate it.
Will do.
And I will do the same. So I'm probably going to run out of battery, so I better go before I do. And thank you everybody for joining. It's been a real pleasure as ever.
Thank you, Jay.
Bye.
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 Yeah.